maintenance is, I wouldn't say it's a secondary thing, but it is a secondary thing as far as getting the product. There's so much work that goes into specifying the product and getting the product through the bidding process and through the general contractor and down to the floor that the maintenance process becomes secondary.
Hello, everyone. This is Dave Thompson. I am your host here at Beyond Clean with Ace, where the cleaning industry talks about, well, anything and everything about cleaning. You know, it's February. My gosh, I don't know where the 2023 is now started with a bang, and I'm way behind. Don't know how you feel here, but one of the things I was looking at all of the people that I talked to over a year, and I'm so thankful that you've joined us again for another episode. We did about 80 podcasts last year, and over the 7 years now, going into that 7th year, we've talked with hundreds of individuals, but there's some people that come back on a regular basis. And as you might notice, we have, let's see, up here in that corner, wherever it is, Mannington Commercial. And to that point, Sean DeVore is back again, and we're going to be talking floors, Sean. We always talk floors, don't we?
Yes, we do, Dave. How are you this morning?
Hey, like I said there, it's February, and I can't believe 23 is already a month gone.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we're into February already. I can't imagine that. Try to give a little more light here. I can't imagine that the year's that it's going to go this fast. I hope not, anyway.
Oh, I got to tell you, I know we talk every month, but I'm like, heck, I'm talking to Sean again. That means another month has gone by.
Yeah, I was telling my wife this morning, it's just like it just rolls over quick, very, very fast. But when you plan, your calendar's full every month and you just go do your job every day, it's unbelievable how fast it does go. My dad always said that growing up. He's like, you'll see when you get older how fast your life goes.
The other funny thing about that is it's surprising to me how my dad grew much more intelligent as I grew older.
Oh, when I was like 13, 14, and 15, he was an imbecile. He didn't know anything.
Folks, as you can see, we don't talk just about cleaning. We got life that goes on. Speaking of life, it's been a little cool here, December, January, February for us here in Florida this year.
Yeah, we had some really cold temperatures up here in North Florida. We were down 19 and 20 degrees. I've got a staghorn plant that I've had for 24 years that you can't reach around, and she got burned a little bit this year, and I even had her in the greenhouse. So I'm bringing her back around.
Now, folks, if you haven't been with us before and don't know who Sean is, we'll let him go in that in a minute. But he's, we were talking with another person this weekend, and he says, I don't like the word farmer. I'm more of a rancher. And I said, oh, don't talk about being a rancher unless you've got herds of cattle or big, herds of sheep and stuff. So I don't want to say hobby farmer or hobby rancher.
That's what I would say. I'm a hobby farmer. I have,
okay, all right.
I have a small, yeah, I'm definitely a hobby farmer. I have, because my best friend farms for a living, so I know what a real farmer is. But I help him, and I've seen him see what he does working 6 and 7 days a week. But no, I have a small hobby farm where we have some horses and chickens and a garden and kind of a little bit try to be sustainable. But that's we're definitely hobbyists.
Okay, so that's what you do on your part-time job, because that is a job. But yep. Your main job is with Mannington Commercial. We enjoy that you've been with us for a number of years. So before we go any further, tell people what you do and everything. And what are we going to talk about today, Sean?
Well, my main position is that I'm a sales representative for Mannington Commercial. We call ourselves district managers, and we call on architects, design firms, end users, school districts, and colleges, hospitals, of the like. Those are examples of end users, and I also flooring contractors. So it's a multifaceted job. I have a territory from South Georgia to North Florida that I cover, and I spend every day, usually out on the road with the exception of one, and seeing my clients and customers and trying to specify flooring. And talking about maintenance, that's one of my big issues is I like to talk about maintenance and how to take care of the floors that we install and or we provide for installation. And that's the things we'll be talking about today. I had an interesting call with a hospital, and then also I've got an upcoming seminar presentation at a college going over how to maintain LVT floors.
One of the just this last week, and I don't know if this plays into what you have prepared for us today, but I got a call from one of my clients that has LV in the building, and we sold them a class on how to do LV floors, and then they purchased the cylindrical auto scrubber, small little electric one that they could store because of its size and closets and all of that.
Right.
But then the thing is then they called me over there and they said, "Hey, we've got this gymnasium floor. It's a rubber floor. And can we use that cylindrical auto scrubber to clean the gym floor?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, when I got out there, it's kind of like that expanded rubber, it's kind of cushy. So you can't put a full battery powered auto scrubber on it because it's just too heavy.
Right.
But yet it's all dirty and everything. And they, of course, been doing what everybody else does, the old sloppy mop. And
right.
So now we've got a contractor going over there because they don't have enough time to run the machine. More and more the synthetic floors are becoming, because, the LV products and everything, we're going synthetic floors instead of carpet and VCT.
That's correct. Everything, our business overall, the LVT business is probably, I know for me personally in my territory, it's well over 65% of my business is LVT or hard surface. Now that may include, that does include sheet vinyl for hospitals, ORs, operating rooms, and exam rooms and procedure rooms, but it also includes LVT and LVP. So that's probably 65% of my business. The carpet has been a very small part of my business as per last year. Carpet looks like it's taken a little bit more of a turn in my territory this year, but that's just because of some carpet projects that I've got on the books that are coming up.
Well, yeah, and whenever you're working with these, Sean, I'm sure that those projects are things that were put in play years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm my basic turn. If I start on a brand new project, with the exception of like an entire hospital or entire building or something, it's usually a 6-month process on the projects that I work on. So I'll start on a project, and 6 to 7 months later is when that project actually gets ordered or comes to fruition. If it's an entire hospital or a large building, that the design, I start with a design firm at the design level, then it could be as much as 2 or 3 years before that project comes to fruition.
So maintenance of these synthetic floors, I'm finding here at the Academy, are becoming more and more problematic because, just like this location here, it's a big expanse in this one big gym. They're not prepared to handle that. But now after years of it, the floor has lost its color. It's just dead. It's dirty. And they don't know how to clean it.
Yeah, there's, I go back to a story I think I've told you a long time ago about when I first started in the business back in 1991. I asked the owner of the store that I worked at, "Why don't we sell vacuum cleaners?" It was a residential carpet store. And I was like, I asked, Al, the guy that owned it, I'm like, why don't we sell vacuum cleaners? He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Vacuum cleaners, we sell a carpet. We don't sell the thing to clean it with." He goes, "Well, that's a good idea." And we never sold vacuum cleaners. But that same kind of thing still continues. Maintenance is, I wouldn't say it's a secondary thing, but it is a secondary thing as far as getting the product. There's so much work that goes into specifying the product and getting the product through the bidding process and through the general contractor and down to the floor, that the maintenance process becomes secondary. And then you have these major corporations that are these cleaning companies that don't necessarily communicate with us at all. And they work more with the chemical companies and the pad companies and the machines in order to get rebates and things like that in order to sell those products than they do learning about the actual manufacturing process of the floor. So in my opinion, there's a huge disconnect between those things. And
Well, yeah, we've said that before here, Sean. We both agree on that. So, are you finding this challenge of the synthetic floors like I am, or is that, or am I just finding isolated cases?
I think from my perspective, everything I sell is synthetic. So I don't have any natural products. So so it's part of my everyday life that I deal with as far as that. The most of the synthetic floor, as far as carpet synthetic because it's nylon. You have the rubber, which is a not traditional natural rubber anymore. It's a synthetic that has a built-in wax in it, and then you have the LVT, which has a very hard topical coating that's made to resist pretty much anything you try to put on it. So there are different aspects of each product that I sell, but everything that I sell is synthetic. So I'm not really seeing a difference in that.
Oh, well, then of course, wait a minute. Don't you have linoleum?
No, we don't. We don't. We have liquid linoleum, but
Ah,
that has our Quantum Guard Elite finish on it, which is a no wax finish. So it's very similar to the LVT as far as the finish goes.
but that goes back to Sean. What we're talking about, though, we do this every month. Is what we're really doing is maintaining the surface, not the substrate product itself.
No, because I often, I have that question at least once a week. Can I install your product over existing VCT? Well, yes, you can, and I'll tell you how to do it, and I'll give you a bond warranty to the VCT. But if the VCT lets go from the floor, I don't cover that. So you're only as good as what your existing substrate.
Right, and folks, this goes back into a lot what we talk about. And I just had this. I know it's not in what you're talking about, Sean, but I had this with a person that had a floor that was underwater for a few days. It was luxury. No, it was travertine stone floor. And the problem is now they want to clean it. And I said, hey, what you've got to do first before you start doing any cleaning, you've got to get all that moisture evaporated out of the stone and out of the concrete, because if you clean on top of it, it's just going to come back. It's going to bring it back. And this is that substrate people that go, oh, well, the surface is okay. Well, hey, didn't we talk last time you had a deal where a carpet or something was underwater for a week or so?
Yeah, I did. It was at major university. The basement had flooded, and the sub basement had flooded, and they've still got it ripped out. They're having to do some strong mitigations with the slab, and we still have not installed or ordered carpet for that job yet. It's still sitting open.
Well, and this goes back to making sure that substrate's right, no matter what kind of synthetic floor you're going to put on there. Now, I say synthetic because, we also teach, resilient floor care classes here at the Academy. So whenever I say synthetic, I'm actually talking about other than, a concrete, stone, or carpet. I call carpet soft, and I call synthetic like LV, rubber. So just to clarify, folks, if you're listening, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Of course, hey, you're on the other side of it, so we have a little bit different terminology that we use.
Yeah, I'm going more literal with synthetic, just meaning that it's non-natural.
But what we are talking about is the fact that the substrate on all of these makes a tremendous difference into how we take care of it on top.
Yeah, if you don't, we call it. I've often referred to it as the sandwich. So if you have your substrate, which is your concrete or your wood subfloor, or whatever you're working with, and then you have your underlayment, which is your spreadable cementatious underlayment that dries hard, and then you either have a primer on it, depending on what your moisture needs are, and then your adhesive, and then the product. Those are all the parts that go to make that sandwich.
So have you had any of these rubber floors lately that needed some of your consultant?
Yeah, I was called out to a hospital where we do fortunate to furnish the rubber for that hospital. The end user is very happy with it. The facility manager called me out. We had a meeting with the general contractor, the flooring contractor, the owner was there. The only person that wasn't there was the maintenance person, which needed to be there.
Yeah, the one
And
guy that needed to be there to
the one
learn
guy
was
that
not
needed to be
there.
there wasn't there. So I show up. I go to every maintenance call with a bag that has uh, clean terry cloth towels in it,
Okay.
a squirt bottle with plain water in it,
Right.
and a Mr. Clean melamine pad in there, a nylon brush, and some rubbing alcohol and some peroxide. That's my little bag that I keep with me.
The
And
little toolkit, right? Yeah.
yeah, a little toolkit that I keep in the truck with me at all times. So I usually the first thing I do is I'll walk the job, see what their concerns are, and
Right.
then I'll pick a place that I see that's probably the dirtiest or the worst place, and I'll get on my hands and knees and squirt the water on the floor. And I usually joke, this is right out of my well at Fort White. This is,
Special
and
water.
exact special water, and let it sit there for a few seconds, and I'll take that terry cloth rag and I'll wipe the floor. And I've been there's been very few times that I have not wiped the floor and it come completely clean with just one or two wipes. And that tells me that either they're doing the sloppy mop, like you mentioned earlier, or their squeegee on their machine is not working properly and they're not picking up the dirty water, or they're just simply not cleaning at all. And they're
And
just dust
in
mopping.
all of those cases, the thing is that what the tools that we've been using are inefficient, shouldn't be used, and aren't producing a result that we feel that we're trying to accomplish.
Right. And the fourth thing that I sometimes find is residue. Mostly the residue is typically on LVP or carpet, but the soapy residue or some type of tacky material that's left on the floor gets blamed for the manufacturing process gets blamed that I can't clean your floor. And
So
it's
was that
not
rubber floor tacky?
No, it wasn't tacky. It was just dirty water, basically. I cleaned. They had some areas next to the welds, and a couple of the welds had not been skived completely flush with the floor, so there was a slight bevel right at the seam. So
Okay.
there was
All right.
a slack area, and that slack area was collecting a little bit of soap, and then
Right.
after the cleaner had left, it's collecting soil and shows a dark line.
Sure.
Um, so
Well,
I
it's kind of like a grout line in a tile floor. It acts as a squeegee and squeegees it all off of
correct.
whatever went over it.
So I showed them in a couple of areas. They had other areas where the chemical that they were using on the floor was, they had the old school fire doors where it had the pins down into the floor and had
Uh-huh.
some type, I don't know if it was brass or stainless steel. It looked like an older stainless steel, and it had rusted or been affected by the chemical used on the floor to clean it. And at that point, I just poured some rubbing alcohol on the floor and um, allowed it to dwell for about 3 minutes, and then I just wiped that up, and that came right off the floor. And the facility manager was completely, um, I guess the word would be disgust and then embarrassed because
I just say that. Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
can see that.
he was apologizing to me for me having to come and get on my hands and knees and show him with a white rag and water that it could clean the floor, and that he had not been able to establish um, a meaningful relationship with the maintenance department to where they could clean the floor the way it should be. And I said, I'm happy to come in and go with them, meet the guy that's actually running the machine, and talk to him, and go over that. I had a similar situation at a school earlier that it's a large school district, and they called me out for the same thing. There was soil on the floor. They couldn't get it up. They couldn't figure out what was going on. The floor's dirty. I do the same thing with the water, clean it. And he goes, wow, that's a very clean circle you got there. And I said, yeah. He goes, what do you think it is? I said, well, are you here at night? He goes, I know he's running the machine. I said, are you here at night watching him? Have you ever seen the person running the machine? And he goes, no, I've never seen it. I know they use it because it's charging in the morning, but I have never watched them use it. I said, well, I would imagine it looks like a NASCAR track out here in the afternoon because he's just zipping along here and he's not allowing the machine to do the work that it's supposed to do and pick up the water that he's putting on the floor. So he's not accomplish anything. He needs to slow way down and take his time, and the floor will come clean. It's not dirty. It's just got dirt sitting on it. And so I'll be called back to that school again. I mean, it just, I solved the issue that day. I explained to him, he'll take it to maintenance, and then maintenance will turn around and come back to him. And then the principal will say something and they'll call me right back out there. So it's just a vicious cycle.
And folks, if you have been with us before, you know that every Monday afternoon I have a program called Cleaning with the Academy, where I give you a hack for the week, and then I have an open coaching session. And one of those things has been that we've been talking about the auto scrubber on a couple of those hacks. And, it's cylindrical brush technology is one of our hacks that we talk about. And the other thing is take the squeegee off of the machine every time that you use the machine. So that way, whenever you look in the mop closet and the machine is parked there, the squeegee should be off of the machine. So this has been, and Sean, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but I learned this a long time ago. If you go in and you see the machine parked there and it's not in use, it should be plugged in for the charger, as you said, but the tank should be open. The recovery tank should be open so that it breathes and dries, so it doesn't smell like a wet sewer. And then the other thing is the squeegee should be off of it, folks. It should not be on the machine in the closet. Now, here's the reason in the hack. It's because nobody is taking a squeegee off, examining it, making sure it's not cut or split or torn, or that the front edge of the squeegee is beveled and isn't working. You cannot examine these things and keep it clean. If you're running an auto scrubber, folks, just as Shauna said, the business end of the machine is the squeegee. Everything else is in front of it. If that squeegee does not work appropriately, it cannot pick up. Now, I agree with you, Sean. It should slow down and let the chemical do the job. But the other thing you're talking about here in our episode today is we've got a film that's building up. And if you've got a $4,000, $6,000, $10,000 auto scrubber, come on, folks, take the squeegee off and inspect it daily. Oh, well, I got off on my little tantrum there, I guess. Hey, you let me do it. I couldn't resist.
Well, I learned about the squeegee and the importance of it from you. I didn't know. That's the first I learned about taking it off. That is a good idea, because if you're forced to mess with it, then you're forced to inspect it. So I think that's a great idea and something I'll bring up in my talks that I do. As a matter of fact, I've got one coming up at a college where we're going to have 35 maintenance professionals there that work at that college, and they're all going to be listening to me on a breakfast presentation on how to take care of LVP floor, because the college is transferred over from VCT to LVT.
Okay, so then when you go and see them, Sean, hey, I'm just giving you ammunition, right? Go to the YouTube channel for the Academy, look up the cleaning with the Academy, look up the hacks. You'll see both the one for the selection of the cylindrical and also the squeegee hack. You'll see those there. Hey, you can just play that and say, hey, now here's what somebody else said. What do you think?
This is a guy I know pretty well, and he seems to know what he's talking about.
Well, and it's the challenge that I've always had, Sean, is, every time I go in and look at a facility, as you do, the first thing I do is go and look and see what the situation is. For me, first thing I do is go look at that auto scrubber. If that squeegee's on there, I can absolutely tell you that it's not working right.
Because it hasn't been looked at. It's like checking the air pressure in the tires.
Yeah, well, and so many of the times whenever I go, you couldn't, you're supposed to be able to, folks, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're supposed to be able to take the squeegee off with two little knobs, hand tight, no tools needed. If you got to get a tool out to take that off of there, I can guarantee you that squeegee's not working right.
Yeah, because it's never been taken off.
Well, and the front edge of the squeegee needs to have a square laser cut. Now, folks, if you're listening to this, I'm doing this all by hand gestures. Sorry. If you're watching the video, you see all the hand gestures. But that straight edge is what picks up to the point that you made. That weld was a straight edge. It collects the debris.
Right.
That's what the straight edge on the squeegee is supposed to do. Collect the debris that the front of the machine loosened. If it can't do that, it doesn't work, and then it smears the floor, like you said.
Well, and when to go back to what you were talking about with chemical, so they put chemical on today. They have an improperly working squeegee to pick up the chemical. Then they come back the next day, they put more chemical on the floor, and it continues to build up. And then it just collects soil on a regular basis, and it gets floor dirtier and dirtier. And then the manufacturer gets blamed because I can't clean your floor. Well, I don't know if that's so much the case, is that you're maybe not cleaning it correctly. I think the biggest pushback, if I could have one, with the maintenance companies are that they do listen to the chemical manufacturers more than they listen to the people, the manufacturers who make the floor or develop the technology for the topical coatings that we put on the floor at the manufacturer. And we work really hard at developing, for instance, on our LVP and LVT, our Quantum Guard Elite, as do other manufacturers, putting an aggregate in the finish to help prevent scratching and marring, and create a hardness, but also have that topical coating be resilient enough that you can install it properly. If you get your topical coating is too hard and you're it ruins knives, or when you push it into a corner, it cracks or breaks, then it's not effective for installation. So we have to try to work into those areas and create a topping that's hard enough to resist the scratching and the mooring and the regular wear that goes on during the day and during the life of the floor, but also can resist staining and soiling and those kinds of things, and the effect of a auto scrubber going all over it every day with a brush, scrubbing it with water. So there's a lot of things goes into it, and then we just do not get to talk to the maintenance company. They're telling us they can't clean our floor, but yet they haven't even asked us how to clean the floor.
This goes back to education. This is what this podcast is all about, folks. This is exactly why we talk with Sean every month. Whether you purchase or whether you install Mannington products, that's not the issue. The issue is if you're using these products, they have changed. And what hasn't changed, Sean, is the mentality of our facilities and the fact that maintenance and management do not understand that we do not do the same things to these new floor surfaces that we did 10 years ago.
No, we don't. And I'm going to meet with a brand new school district tomorrow. I've never met this district before. They called me mainly because the facility director, she was doing some research online. She came across Mannington. She called me, and we had a great conversation. But probably 50% of that conversation was about their maintenance, because they're currently using all VCT, and they're moving from VCT to LVT. And I'm very impressed with the fact that she is doing some research. She's asking questions. They have not done one school yet in LVT, but they're considering it. And I'm going to go meet with her. And most of the conversation tomorrow is going to be about maintenance. I'm going to show her Brett's materials from Expanded Technologies. I'm going to talk to her about maintenance and what chemicals. Those are going to be all parts of my conversation, because she's making a drastic change from a finished floor that doesn't have any finish on it, that she applies it on site, to one that has a pre-applied finish coming from the factory.
And you've got to keep her from using what the chemical industry calls that sacrificial wear layer now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when I actually saw the marketing on that sacrificial wear layer for LV products. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but people buy into this.
Well, that was what really was on VCT, or really is that there is a sacrificial wear layer on VCT when it comes from the factory. We used to put a small short coating of finish on it to get it through the construction phase.
Well, what do you think water-based liquid floor finishes we've been putting on VCT for 100 years?
Right.
It is sacrificial. A sacrificial wear layer.
That's
but we don't do that. That's the reason we're using these new products, folks.
Right. Yeah, when I started talking to her about, her cost associated with putting in VCT, I said, you're right now today, if you're buying a VCT, which comes from very limited manufacturing, because the major market of Armstrong has changed. I think there's a company out there using one of their manufacturing facilities still making VCT. Then you have Tarkett, who makes VCT. but your manufacturing options are very limited as far as VCT. But you're installing now, the product is more money because there's less of it, so the prices went up, getting really close to what LV products are. So you're installing for $1.95 a foot for VCT. Then you're coming back in a week after you install it and spending another 40 cents a foot to put finish on it. And then the next summer you're doing the exact same thing again, and then on and on. And I said, just take 40 cents a square foot, which is a very minimalistic number. And every summer, by the square footage of the schools that you do, and figure out how much money you're spending. So every time you change a school to LV, that money in the summer, you can send those people to do something else. They don't have to strip and finish the floor. And she started thinking about that. She goes, that's a lot of money. I said, yeah, it's a lot of money. I said, that goes away with LV product. But you have to, your maintenance program changes, and you're not there in the summertime, but you're probably there a little more often during the year. And, but it's less intrusive. So we'll be talking about all those things tomorrow.
Folks, this is what we talk about every month. Whether you're using a luxury vinyl product or synthetic floor today, I was looking for a way to close the show today, Sean, and I'm just happy that you closed it the way you did, because it's all about research before you put it down. Because once that you put it down, maintenance changes. And what we find with the new synthetic floors of the last 10 years is that most people are not changing the mentality of what they're doing. They're simply doing the same old habits, using the same old machines, same old products with a new product. And then they're coming to people like Sean and going, well, it's not working. Or I get them in class going, why am I here? I need to know what to do. You have to change the mindset before you put it in. Sean, I like one of the things you said is, hey, we got to put those covers on those chairs. I mean, this is what's going to keep the scratching. I keep telling people in class all the time, it requires more daily maintenance, but less life cycle maintenance.
Right.
Sean, how do they get hold of you over at Mannington? I think you covered where you cover northern Florida there for Mannington. So how do they get hold of you? And thanks for being on the show again.
I appreciate it, Dave. Yeah, if you're in South Georgia or North Florida and you need a flooring consultant, give me a call. I'm with Mannington Commercial. My number is 352-630-9884, or I can be reached at sean.devore@mannington.com. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Dave. It's always a pleasure.
Sean, we've got your address scrolling across the bottom of the screen there for people. If you want to, you got his phone numbers. We'll have all of his information in the show notes, both on the video and on the audio recording. And folks, as I said, if you listening to this show, please join us on a Monday afternoon. We're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube at 2:30. We're just here to talk about anything in the commercial cleaning industry, just like Sean and I have today. It's a live 1-hour presentation. I have a hack from last week I'll go over. I have a new hack for this week. And then it's just open conversation. You don't have to come on live like Sean does on screen and audio. You can just simply type it into the chat and, hey, I'll answer your question, or I'll find somebody like Sean DeVore over at Mannington that has the answer. We will get the answer for you. Folks, we appreciate that you were here today. Please like, share, subscribe. That's what it's all about. That's the only way other people get this information. Sean, one last thing. We're going to see you in April as a guest speaker at one of our shows. Give them just a little tidbit.
Well, I'll just leave it at the fact that I live life by the little things, and I talk about how important the small things in life are, and I call it drips in a bucket. So I will leave that for you, and hopefully your bucket drips overnight and fills up.
Thanks for being on the show, Sean. Till we see you again.
See you later, Dave. Thank you.